Hey guys, so that exchange tokens video I made for y'all a few days ago really rocketed, got so many views, so thank y'all for watching that one. But alas, that one was only focused on our centralized exchanges out there, and I didn't mention any of the amazing decentralized exchanges that have their own very juicy tokens that we can get our hands on. So I had to get this video out for you guys ASAP, and remember, the whole purpose of this two-part series per se is a concept called exchange token repricing. And that is the idea that exchange tokens are going to continue to outperform as Coinbase goes public. And the reason there is that when Coinbase goes public, we'll finally have something tangible and reliable to anchor these other exchanges and their tokens too. So here's what we're going to do in this video. Touch on 5 top DEXs that I like, talk about what makes them unique and different from each other, talk about the token, what it's used for, and wrap it all up by looking at their price action so far and where you can buy them. If that sounds interesting to you at all, then you're in the right place. Strap in, my friend, because it's time for the deep dive. Alright, come on, you know I gotta start with the most popular one out there, Uniswap. They're named after a pink unicorn, and hence that's their logo too. And it's honestly my favorite DEX out there to use, and it's the most popular one in terms of daily volume and number of users. I probably used it dozens of times in the past few years. They launched in 2018, and they were really a trailblazer for these AMM or automated market maker type DEXs. Essentially, that is where they use liquidity pools to facilitate trading, rather than your traditional order books that we see on centralized exchanges like Coinbase, for example. They weren't the first ones to use this AMM type model, but they did significantly improve on previous iterations like Bancor's model. Now, these guys did not have an ICO when they first launched, which makes them really different than all these other projects out there. It wasn't until September of 2020 when they added their governance token, or Uni. Now, what's awesome about their introduction of Uni is that they airdropped it to all previous users, and they gave us 400 Uni, now worth about $12,000. And I unfortunately sold mine way too early on, before these massive pumps. In 2020, Uniswap surpassed Coinbase Pro in terms of daily trading volume for a short period of time, but it was still a monumental feat in terms of decentralized exchange performance, because if you told me that this would happen a few years ago, I would have called you insane. They've also been constantly innovating over the years. They went from Uniswap V1 to V2, and now they have V3 on the horizon. And their whole mission or goal is to make trading so seamless and easy that it even beats the experiences of centralized exchanges. Now, that is a lofty goal, but if any team can accomplish it, then I would bet on the Uniswap team. Now, in terms of the Uni token, here's what you gotta know. 60% of it is allocated to the community, and that's spread throughout a 4-year period. And then they also have a perpetual 2% inflation rate afterwards to help spur and continue network participation. This is a governance token though, so it's a little bit hard to gauge true demand or interest for it. When you hold it, you can vote on protocol changes and whatnot, but there really isn't much else besides that. Like in the future, they might make it so you get a cut of the trading fees using Uniswap, but right now you don't get any of that. This isn't like those other exchange tokens where you get discount on fees, revenue share, or access to different parts of their platform. Those are a little bit more easy to gauge their future demand, but in case of just pure governance, if you can imagine, that's not as easy to model and think about where that demand would come from in the future besides just pure speculation. They are ranked top 10 overall, which is super impressive for a decentralized exchange token. And besides being available on different DEXs, you can also buy this on Binance, Coinbase Pros, OKX, and other big centralized exchanges. Now, in terms of price action, they started off pumping from $1 to $7 per Uni token, and then resting somewhere between the 2 to 4 range before the most recent rally, which shot it up all the way to $30-$35, which is an enormous rally. But honestly, in terms of Uni, I think the sky's the limit because they are the preeminent DEX, and investors all around the space will want to get their hands on some as Coinbase goes public and reprices all of these exchange tokens to the upside. Now, next one up makes me hungry. It's called SUSHI Swap. And this DEX is very similar to Uniswap because in fact, it is a clone or a fork of Uniswap's codebase with a few minor tweaks. That's the thing you got to know about the blockchain space, right? Everything is publicly viewable on the blockchain, so people can look at your code and make a copy of it and do whatever they want with it. SushiSwap launched in September of 2020 with their Sushi token. And here's the key differences you got to know about that. So they do incentivize their token holders by giving them a cut of their trading fees in the form of Sushi token. And you can still yield farm for Sushi by being a liquidity provider. And lastly, they give way more governance power than Uni token holders. One super interesting and dramatic part about Sushi's history is that their pseudonymous founder, Chef Nomi, took all the ether from the SushiSwap fund and pieced. And I'm talking like 38,000 ETH, which was millions upon that time. So that was a huge scandal. The community had a lot of uproar, and people even from outside the crypto space started covering it. So all that pressure worked because Chef Nomi came back and returned the funds and apologized, and everything seems back to normal for now. Now, SushiSwap's token launch was also very different from Uni's. They had no pre-mine, no VC allocation, and everybody had a chance from the very start to get in on Sushi. And if you ask me, I like this fair launch model much more. And after the token launch, if you were a liquidity provider by staking your coins in their pools, you could get Sushi as rewards split between you and everyone else who did this. At first, it was 1,000 Sushi per Ethereum block being split amongst the LPs, but now it got cut down to 100, and this might change in the future too. At this current rate of 100 per block, this will get us around 300 million Sushi in terms of overall circulating supply by September of 2021. Now, like I mentioned before, a really clutch part about Sushi is that you get a cut of their trading fees. SushiSwap takes 0.3% of all trades as fees. And if you're a token holder, you get around 16% of that fee amount sent back to you. Now, in terms of Sushi the token, they have a pretty large daily trading volume, and they're ranked top 50 overall currently. This is not nearly as big as Uni so far, but they could get there one day if they pave their own course and continue to innovate without running into any roadblocks. And in terms of price action, they rocketed from $1 to $17 right now, which is amazing, but hasn't gone quite as far as Uni has yet, so maybe some more room to run. Now, you can get yield by farming these different tokens on these decentralized exchanges, but another great place you can get yield from is from Matrixport, also our sponsors for this video. Now, I already covered them in a few videos in the past, but here are two current offers of theirs that I want to spotlight for you right now. One is their fixed income product for Bitcoin, and this is where you deposit Bitcoin there and you get a 10% annualized yield on that for a 1-week period. This offer is only available to new users. You can think of this kind of like a high interest savings account that you can find elsewhere in the crypto space too. But right now they have these great offers because they started off recently, so they want to incentivize people to come onto their platform. The second offer is their welcome bonus, and that is if you guys sign up for one of their accounts and deposit $200 or more and hold it there for over a month, then they'll send you $10 as a rebate to your account. So you can only get that if you sign up using my link below. And if you're curious, definitely go download their mobile app. I already have it on my phone and see what else they offer because they have way more than just these two offers. Now, the next one's name is 1inch, and this one is a little bit different than all the other ones I covered so far because they are a DEX aggregator platform rather than its own DEX. And what I mean by that is they connect all the different DEXs together so you can use it all from one interface. The purpose is that they find the best prices and the most efficient routing for your trade, and you don't have to go around checking all the different DEXs to see which one gives you the best rate. Now, 1inch aggregates all the different top DEXs out there, but they also have their own Mooniswap. I'm not joking, that is the name that they chose for it. Mooniswap is an AMM type DEX, just like SushiSwap and Uniswap. Now, their 1inch token has the shortest track record out of them all. It only launched a few months ago in December of 2020. It's primarily a governance token, and in order to participate, you have to stake your 1inch tokens. Honestly, their token is pretty similar to Sushi or Uni, nothing drastically different here. They did two awesome airdrops to the community so far. One to people who've used their DEX before, and one to people who are just general Uniswap traders. But you have to reach certain minimum thresholds, so it's not as simple as if you just used Uni before. Now, in terms of the token performance, they have pretty decent trading volume, and they're a top 100 token already, which is super impressive. It's honestly still in the middle of its first rally, so it's still undergoing price discovery. It pumped all the way up to $4 on its first day and then dropped down to $1 before now rallying up to $6.50. It's nothing spectacular compared to Sushi or Uni yet, but it's early and it may get there someday. So if you want to get your hands on some, you can do it on the popular DEXs, but also Binance, KuCoin, and OKX. Now the next one, number 4, is Kyber Network, and this was an old flame of mine back in 2017 when they first launched. I was a huge believer, and one big reason is because it was one of the very few ICOs that had Vitalik Buterin himself as an official advisor. Now, Kyber is a little bit different from all the other DEX I mentioned earlier because yes, they enable decentralized token swaps, but at their core, they are an on-chain liquidity protocol that combines liquidity from various sources. So if you're a decentralized app, for example, you can integrate with Kyber to access a shared pool of liquidity. One big example that's done this already is MyEther Wallet. Their token exchange feature uses Kyber. They also have made their own Kyber Swap exchange where you can use it to exchange tokens, but to be honest, I haven't personally used this before, though I did get a chance to take a look, and one super interesting thing they have is limit orders. And as you may know, we can't do limit orders at all on Uniswap and other ones of those AMM type DEXs. Now, Kyber is a little bit more OG. They had their ICO in 2017, and that's when they launched their KNC, or Kyber Network Crystals. That's the name of their token. They're a utility token that's not only for governance, but it's woven throughout their ecosystem. Like, for example, if you want to be a reserve manager and supply liquidity and get a cut of their revenue, then you have to hold KNC. And there's a lot of other ways that KNC is baked in and around their ecosystem, but that's just one example I wanted to share with you. In terms of token performance so far, they're currently ranked just outside the top 100 with a daily trading volume of around 80 million. You can access KNC pretty easily since it's listed on Binance and Coinbase Pro, as well as other DEXs. Early back in 2018, during the last bull run, KNC rocketed all the way up to $6, but then during the bear market, it crashed down to 10 cents before now rallying to around $2. It seems to be in its own consolidation range for now, waiting for its next sharp move upwards, if it ever comes. Last but not least, Loopring, and this is pretty different from all the other ones we've covered so far. They launched in 2017, and they're a protocol that lets anyone run their own DEX on Ethereum. But what's really special about this is that DEXs running on Loopring can handle 1,000 times more trades per second, and also the cost to settle each trade in terms of gas fees is just around a few cents. So that means the end user of Loopring's DEXs can have gas fee trading, which is unheard of in terms of all the layer 1 decentralized exchanges out there that we use more often. Now, how did they accomplish this wizardry, you may be wondering? Well, they do this by working on Ethereum's layer 2 instead of layer 1. And in a nutshell, what this means is that they process all the trades outside of the main Ethereum blockchain, and then later settles them in a more efficient manner on the blockchain. This means that you don't have to compete with all the other types of apps like DeFi, NFTs, trying to get their transactions processed directly on the Ethereum blockchain. That's how things can be so much cheaper and faster. Honestly, there are a ton of different technologies in the layer 2 space, but what Loopring uses is something called zero knowledge proofs, and more specifically, they use ZK rollups. So you can go take a further look at that if you're curious. So taking a step back, what this means is that Loopring wants DEXs to be built, taking the best features from both worlds, from both centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So they have a hybrid approach per se. Now, not many people have built their own DEX on Loopring yet, but they have launched their own in 2020. This doesn't have much adoption or volume yet, but it is improving slowly. One cool part about their protocol is that they have both an AMM type token swap DEX and also a traditional order book type DEX, so they can handle both. Now, let's talk a little bit about their own token, the LRC token. It's used in a variety of ways. You have to stake it in order to be able to run your own DEX using their protocol. You can also stake it to lower the trading fees. Lastly, you can use it to get a cut of the revenues generated. Right now, they have a market cap of around $800 million and a daily trading volume of around 66 million. It's quite easy to get your hand on some because Binance, Coinbase Pro, all those big exchanges support it. Now, price-wise, it's followed the same pattern as a lot of altcoins we saw in the last bull cycle. It rocketed to almost $1, but then dropped all the way down and flatlined before recently picking back up, going to about 58 cents. So that's it for the 5 different DEXs, but which one do I like the most, right? To be honest, I like all of these, but I think Uni, Sushi, and 1inch will continue to gain the most steam in the short term. Kyber, I do think it's a really promising project with a solid team and solid technology, but it's lost a little bit of steam and doesn't have as much buzz or exposure lately. Loopring, I think, is a dark horse because it uses layer 2 technology, but it needs a lot more adoption, right? That's what's holding it back, in my opinion. But then again, Kyber and Loopring, they haven't rocketed as much yet, so they may potentially have more room to run. And the beauty of all of these tokens is that it's much easier for us to get our hands on, right? It's not like the centralized exchange tokens that I couldn't access because I'm restricted as being in the US. These we can all get our hands on pretty easily. Now, lastly, I want to end with this, right? How should we think about these DEXs in general so that you don't only have to evaluate the ones I list here, but you can go look at other DEX tokens maybe in the future too and decide whether or not you should buy. I think first thing we have to keep in mind is that governance tokens are cool, but they aren't as well defined in terms of their utility, so it's not potentially as clear about how they're going to generate demand in the future for this. And we got to be careful here because that means, yes, it may pump enormously in the short term due to speculation, but long term fundamentals do matter, right? So we need to make sure that we understand what these tokens can do for us and what their tokenomics are and so forth. There are two big risks also that you got to keep in mind when investing in these DEX tokens. One is just smart contract risks, right? If they get hacked or if someone rug pulls them and drains all the funds, like we saw with some projects in the past, then that could severely impact the token's price. Number two is regulatory risks. Right now, DEXs are fine, but maybe the SEC starts to go after some DEXs, and that would be not good at all for these tokens if they ever took that sort of action. And yes, this is a worry for us, even if they are technically decentralized exchanges. There are more and more DEXs popping up, so we are in for a treat. We have a lot to choose from, a lot to try out, and they're always continuing to innovate for us. But ultimately, what we should keep in mind and what we should judge them on is their volume and liquidity, because that's what matters for us, right? That's what makes them a healthy DEX. And if they're not able to get there, then they're probably just going to be zombie exchanges. Lastly, one real pro tip I want to leave you with is that many of these exchanges give airdrops to incentivize users to come on board. So it might be a good idea to go try some out just so that you can potentially qualify for their airdrops in the future. What do you think about these 5 decentralized exchanges and their tokens that I just covered? Do you have your hands on any of them? Do you want to go buy some? Let me know down in the comments below so we can share our notes. And while you're there, why not smash that like button to support me? I'm Kevin from BFB. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll catch you next time.